What if Iran wasn't just a modern threat on the world stage, but a nation foretold in Scripture, woven into the prophetic story long before it ever made headlines? Long before Iran was known by that name, it was Persia, a rising power rooted in the ancient bloodline of Japheth, son of Noah. From the quiet aftermath of the flood, a name appears in Genesis 10, Madai. No explanation, no spotlight, just a name. Yet through that name, a people would emerge, the Medes, who alongside the Persians, would shape empires, fulfill prophecy, and become tools in the hands of the living God. This video unpacks a truth often missed. Persia is not a background nation in the Bible. It's central. God used pagan kings, like Cyrus, to rebuild his temple. He placed his people under Persian rule, not as a punishment, but as part of a divine plan. Prophets like Daniel served in their courts. Visions of the end times include them by name. This isn't coincidence. This is divine orchestration. We often divide the world into sacred and secular, holy and hostile. But the Bible shows a God who works through all nations, not just Israel. Persia was never outside of God's sight. From Madai's mention in the Table of Nations to Persia's future role in Ezekiel's vision, their story is prophetic, past, present, and future. This is more than history. This is prophecy in motion. Iran, ancient Persia, is not a rogue element in the biblical story. It's a divine thread woven through time. From Genesis to Ezra, from Isaiah to Ezekiel, the fingerprints of God are all over this nation's rise, fall, and roll. Why does this matter? Because when you understand that Persia was chosen for purpose, even outside the covenant, you begin to see the wider sovereignty of God. You realize He is not just orchestrating Israel's future, He is governing the nations. The same God who named Cyrus before his birth is the God who governs history now. This challenges how we view global events. We fear Iran for its weapons, its regime, its threats. But Scripture calls us to something deeper, to discern. What if the very nation we fear is being positioned again, not to destroy God's people, but to play a role in His unfolding plan? What if today's headlines are echoes of a story that began in Genesis? The return of Christ will not happen in a vacuum. Nations will rise. Coalitions will form. And in Ezekiel 38, Persia is listed among the last days' alliances. This isn't conjecture, it's Scripture. And it tells us one critical truth. God is still writing the story. The players may change, but the author remains. He raised up Persia in the past to release His people from captivity. He may raise it again to trigger events that usher in His return. This should awaken awe, not fear. Urgency, not panic. Because if Persia's purpose was prophesied, then so is ours. We are not random spectators in this unfolding plan. We are participants. God is moving. His word is being fulfilled. And every empire, every ruler, every moment in history bends to the will of the Ancient of Days. So the next time you hear about Iran, don't just see politics, see prophecy. Don't just see conflict, see coordination. Don't just see danger, see divine design. The same God who used Cyrus is still on the throne. And the story isn't finished yet. Cyrus was not part of Israel's covenant, yet he was part of God's plan. He didn't worship Yahweh, yet he fulfilled Yahweh's word. No priest laid hands on him. No prophet mentored him. And yet, God called him my anointed. This is the scandal of sovereignty, that God would choose a Persian king to rebuild his house, restore his people, and fulfill a promise spoken through Jeremiah 70 years before. And He did it through a decree, not a miracle. Through a pagan, not a prophet. Through politics, not revival. Let that unsettle you. Because if God used Persia once to protect His remnant, could He not do it again? Today, Iran stands at the center of global tension. But beneath the headlines, could God be preparing another Cyrus? A voice. A leader. An unlikely reformer who will again turn the world's attention back to Jerusalem. You don't have to agree with it. You just have to be ready for it. Because God's anointed don't always look like priests. Sometimes they wear crowns we don't understand, speak languages we don't trust, and rise from nations we fear. But if it's God's assignment, it carries heaven's authority. Watch the thrones. Watch the borders. Watch the unexpected. Because when the hour comes, God will move. Not because we were faithful, but because He is. And if He did it once in Persia, He can do it again in Iran. If you are inspired by the message, don't keep it to yourself. Like, to support gospel truth. Share, to awaken another soul. Subscribe and hit the bell for more bold, Bible-based content. God placed Esther, a Jewish orphan and Persian queen, in the heart of a powerful pagan empire at just the right time. While a deadly plot against her people unfolded, God used her courage and position to reverse the decree of destruction. Esther's story shows us that God doesn't always act through armies or miracles. Sometimes he moves quietly through a single brave person in the right place at the right moment. Though his name isn't mentioned, God's hand is clear in every detail. If he raised Esther then, could he not be raising others now, hidden voices in unexpected places, ready to bring deliverance once more? Daniel's prophetic vision reveals the rise and fall of empires, starting with Persia, the ram with two horns, and then Greece, the swift goat with a prominent horn. Persia's vast power was destined to be broken by Alexander the Great's Greek Empire, fulfilling God's sovereign timeline. No empire lasts beyond God's appointed season. This truth applies today. Modern Iran, the ancient Persia, may regain influence, but its fall is already foretold. Daniel's visions assure us that God protects his people through all these shifts, pointing to an eternal kingdom that will ultimately triumph. The Magi's journey to Bethlehem reminds us that behind historical events lies a divine plan, unfolding through generations, leading to the coming of the Messiah. So be watchful but not afraid. God's purposes prevail beyond earthly powers. Persia, modern Iran, has played a pivotal role in biblical history, from Cyrus rebuilding the temple to the Magi honoring Jesus at his birth. Prophecy in Ezekiel 38-39 reveals that Persia will rise again in the last days as part of a hostile coalition against Israel. Though Persia will come to conquer, God will intervene supernaturally to defeat its forces and demonstrate his holiness and sovereignty. This future conflict is not a reason for fear but for faith and preparation, as God uses even rebellious nations to fulfill his purposes. Persia's story is a testament to God's control over history, raising and breaking nations according to his plan. As tensions rise today, believers are called to trust God's sovereign plan rather than panic, to recognize Persia's role as part of God's unfolding prophecy, and to surrender fully to him. Ultimately, God's glory and the triumph of Jesus are assured. Persia's rise and fall are threads woven into the grand tapestry of redemption, pointing us to the coming King. God bless you.